Hey guys, before I get right into the lab, I do want to go over a little bit of background about this concept. So I'm going to be going through slides 2 through 6 of the Google Slides file that's attached with this assignment. So first, just to kind of show you, explain what's going on here, the concept is really similar to how prisms work. So white light is composed of all the colors, like Roy G. Biv, the rainbow. But when it passes through something like a prism, you might be familiar with this. You've probably seen the Pink Floyd logo. It causes the light to bend, and different wavelengths or different colors of light bend at different angles. And so purple light is going to bend the most, and red light is going to bend the least. And so because all of these colors bend differently, they're all going to come out of the prism at slightly different angles, which separates that white light. Today we are using spectroscopes, which are going to be doing the same thing, where they break up the light and spread it out because it passes through a tiny slit. This is how rainbows form, because water droplets in the atmosphere act as little prisms essentially and scatter and bend that light and break it up into all of its different colors. So specifically with today's lab, I have these tubes. They're pretty much just light bulbs, but inside they contain a specific element. Like one contains hydrogen, we have helium, argon. So there's different elements in the gas phase in these tubes. And I hook it up to this little device here, which plugs into the wall. So it starts sending an electric current through that tube of gas, and it excites it. And so it's going to emit a specific color based on whatever that element is. And then I'm going to show you what it looks like as it passes through a really narrow slit in a lens. And it's going to have that same effect as a prism, where it breaks up the light into its wavelengths. So then you're going to see this thing here, the emission spectrum. So in the tube, it's the color of all the light combined. And then the emission spectrum is that color broken up into its wavelengths. So this would be specific for hydrogen. And so because every element has a different color, and it emits a different color when the electrons are excited, it's all going to have a different emission spectrum here. And so just to kind of help you visualize, again, this is the Bohr model. It is not accurate, it's not an accurate representation of how electrons orbit the nucleus, but it does kind of help us understand those energy levels better. So an electron gets excited, it absorbs energy, jumps up to a higher level, but it cannot stay there, so then it's going to pop back down and release that energy. If that light energy happens to be within this teeny little section of the electromagnetic spectrum, then it's visible light and we'll be able to see it as color. If the energy is too high, then we wouldn't be able to see it because our eyes cannot detect ultraviolet light, X-rays, or gamma rays. And if the energy was too low, our eyes also would not be able to detect it because we cannot see infrared light, microwaves, or radio waves. And this is just showing you a periodic table that has all these specific emission spectrum of each element. And so you can see they're all these little, almost colorful barcodes, and each one is specific and unique to that element. So this is different than that Labster lab you did, because the Labster lab was showing you essentially the inverse, or the opposite of this. It was showing you black lines where the light was being absorbed, and now this is showing you the light as it's almost passing through. So this is showing you the light that's emitted when the electrons jump back down to their lower energy. So for the lab, I'm going to show you 6 different tubes of gases. You do not know which one is which, but you are going to kind of color in a blank spectrum to try to figure it out. And then you are going to go to this Google slide file, and you are going to look through and try to figure out which one it matches with. And so there's 6 different gases, and so you'll just figure out which one it is. That's it. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so for this lab, you are going to need your 2.14 Google Doc out. This background information will be helpful when you are doing your analysis questions on the next page. So for this lab, I'm going to be showing you 6 different elements, gases and tubes, and you're going to be doing, drawing the emission spectrum for each one. So if you're going to print this out, you can just color it in with colored pencils or whatever markers, whatever you have. And if you are doing this digitally, then just double click on this and just try your best to sketch this out. The purple colors, if you see any, should be on the left. So I'm just going to the shapes, grabbing a rectangle. Maybe you just saw a really narrow little slit of purple, and then maybe you saw, let's see, a larger region of like an aqua color. And so you're just kind of doing that. It does not need to be perfect, but just kind of try your best to draw whatever it is that the colors you see so that you can identify which is which. Alright, so I'm getting the first gas tube set up here. You can see when all the wavelengths of light are combined, it kind of makes like a lavender colored light. If you were in person, you'd be wearing these like silly paper glasses, which act as a prism to make that emission spectrum for you. So you can see that there's kind of like a range of blue, a bright greenish aqua section, a bright yellow, and some kind of like faded red. I would recommend pausing this here so that you can get it colored in. On to tube number 2, you can see, sorry this one looks kind of spooky here, but when you put on the little glasses and see the emission spectrum, you can see it kind of shows all the colors, but it's pretty dim. Our next one here, definitely a lot brighter. So when you get your little glasses on, you can see there's definitely some strong purple, a really strong aqua, and a strong red. This one's very simple. Our fourth one here, it's kind of white when all the colors are combined. Let me get it to focus here. And when we add the little goofy glasses, you can see that there's a little bit of purple, strong aqua, maybe some green in there, yellow, and a reddish. Moving on to tube number 5. Put the little glasses over the lens. You can see this one's quite bright and it kind of shows all of the colors. Just zoom in if you want to pause that so you can sketch it in. Finally, we have our last gas tube here. This one's definitely the brightest, so it's kind of hard to get it into focus, but you can see that it's mostly like reddish orange. So those are going to be like the most powerful wavelengths. And when we put on the little paper glasses, here's just a picture if you want to pause it. You can see there is a little bit of purplish bluish, but it is mostly overpowered by the red, yellow, and orange. Alright, so now that you have all of your emission spectra drawn out, you are going to identify which element was in each tube. So once you go to this file, I just skipped through. This was the stuff I did in the beginning. So slide 7 is going to tell you how to do this, but really you're just kind of scrolling through and trying to figure out which element was in each tube based on the spectrum you drew. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions.